some are just like references, and I'm like, dude, I'm not looking at this now.
Oh my gosh.
Actually, maybe from writing a paper.
Oh, who I talked to it, what?
Radio trip.
How was the game?
Like, extra time. At what time? That's fine. I would also really sit together, I mean, for lunch somewhere else. I just want to chat up. I feel like if I got to chat, we have it. Good.
Did you ever find any work, any people?
Plenty, probably like too much right now, probably, yeah. Have to back it up. Yeah. It's been good though. Yeah. Thank you so much for that.
Oh, sure.
Just enjoy lectures whose society you shall not covet. Just ask God, bro.
Okay, we'll wait a couple more minutes for some people, and then we're going to get started. Had a couple people from this class who came yesterday, so remember that you are trying to, if you're trying to make up something, you actually need to make it up early if possible. So if you don't have class Monday, Wednesday at 8 a.m., Monday, Friday at 8 a.m., you could come to that class, but they're a day ahead of you, so a couple people knew they wouldn't be able to be here today, so they came early. That's a good thing on their part. What's that? Yeah, she said she did it. Okay, we're gonna get started. We need to finish lecture 1, actually, but it's like as though it's lecture 2. So if you didn't figure out, lecture 1 is actually like twice as long as it could be, or should be, maybe, so it's like 2 lectures, but we'll finish that today. Before we do that, we're gonna pray. And what we're going to pray about this morning is, I guess, following this airplane crash, Washington, D.C. So last night about 8:30, 9 o'clock or so, a plane, 64 people or something on board, whatever, more than that actually, probably 65 or 7, crashed with an Army helicopter by accident over Washington, D.C. airport, Ronald Reagan Airport, and crashed into the river. The airport lands over the river. And probably nobody survived at all, but they spent the whole night like trying to find people in the water and stuff, so not a pleasant thing to happen. But so we'll pray, one, if there are any survivors, by any slim chance they will get found. That's probably, they've already been looking, so it's probably not. But then you got all those families and stuff, and then the questions of why it actually happened. But we'll just pray that God will help people. The plane came from Kansas. I don't know if any of you have anybody that was connected to you from Kansas on that plane. So, whatever airport, not Kansas City, some other airport in Kansas. So, if you know people in Kansas or have some connection there, you must check in on them or something. Okay, let's pray. Dear Lord, we do thank you again for today. So, everybody sitting here, they look like they're fine fiddle, I think is the word, that we're all pretty good to go, and that is a blessing, and it could change at any moment. It could change in the next 50 minutes or something. We don't know that. We know you know it, and we're trusting you that you are directing. You said our steps, if we're a righteous person, our steps are ordered by you. You're directing those paths. You said you go before us, prepare a place for us, make the path straight for us. And I pray that you would be doing that, and we go meet our maker, so to speak, at a moment's notice, unexpectedly, if necessary. And if not, if our lives are long and I hope fruitful, I pray that we, and especially young people in the room the most, would be preparing for that. That you are directing their lives now for things that they need to be figuring out and doing 25 years from now. And they need to follow you now in order to accomplish that later. You pray don't even know what it is. Pray don't even reveal it to them, but you do know what it is. We do pray for especially these hundreds of family people affected by these deaths at this airplane crash. Pray that if there are any survivors, they would be found, that you would get them found. If there aren't any, that means there's a lot of people that are going to be in mourning, families and such, and I pray that you would help them. I pray at a time like this that they would turn to you. So even though it seems bad, it seems evil, it seems like something went wrong, that they turn to you to look for answers, not turn against you, actually. Pray that Christians would know how to help people, how to minister to people, to provide comfort and care for them. And I pray that you give wisdom to whatever went wrong in the background, what went wrong. I pray that you give wisdom to people to fix that so it doesn't happen. Be with all of us as we prepare for things like road trips. There's lots of travel and such involved. There's always some element of danger involved in that wouldn't be average for us. I pray that you keep us safe and that we would do well at those things you're calling us to do even in a month from now or so, or 2 months, whatever it is. Be with us here today in class as we are trying to discover, I guess you might say, or try to figure our way through the ideas of whether morality should be in society or how should morality be in society, or should your morality be in society. And you give us insight into that, lead us into truth about that. And if we make certain conclusions, help us to live those conclusions out actually in the society. Be with us here in class, help us have a good time together. In Jesus' name we pray. Okay, we'll finish up attendance here. Let's see who made it. So let's see. Bella, did Bella make it? Okay. Noah, did I see Noah? Oh, Noah, okay. Lindsay's here. Melissa. Dylan. All right, so if you know those people and they're your friends, make sure you rally them up for what they should be rallied up for, whatever that might be. I'm not against people missing class for good reasons and stuff. I think one of those persons that I'm pretty sure is not missing class for a good reason, because they told me that or whatever. So how's life going? I'm tired. I'm like, did you go to bed at night? No way. I'm like, why not? This is college. I was like, let's trade the wrong view of college. This is college debt when you are failing your classes. Okay, we are going to be working our way all the way through lecture number 1. And you know what's going to happen here on the next slide that I pull up because you've seen it before, haven't you? Okay, we are going to go over slides 2 and 5 again, even though you don't want me to do that. Because if you don't understand them, you don't understand the course. At this point in time, I hope you actually have memorized these, like you need to know the definitions and such on the exam. I'm going to be asking slide 2, these 2 definitions, and then when we get to slide 5, the 3 definitions you might say there. I want to be asking them in multiple ways. So someone will just say like, what is the definition of morality? A, B, C, D. You just like recognize it, like, boom, that's a no-brainer. But I'm also going to be asking those in like other twisted, tricky ways, you know, like, does morality precede ethics in a proper system? True, yes or no? No, it doesn't. Morality is supposed to come second. So you might ask me like, why did you put it on this slide to me? Does anybody know why I put it on morality first and ethics second? Even though this is midterm and this is final, why are they flipped backwards or upside down?
Because we're learning the content right now, like the morality, because it's.
No. Flip that the other way. Angela?
Is it because that's how people usually think of it?
That's right. Okay. this is how people, who you, when you take a class, to take this course that you all have to take, whether you like it or not. You know, everybody in the whole school has to take it. That's how most people perceive ethics. Or if they say like, that's not even ethical. Like Brady cheats on an exam or something, Ricky leans over and says, Brady, wait, that's not even ethical. Brady should say, yes it is. It's immoral, but if his ethic involves teleology, the result I wanted was to pass the exam. Cheating doesn't matter in a teleological system. So if Brady's like full-blown teleology, he's like, hey Ricky, shut up. Here's why. He's not just being mean, he's like, I have a real reason. I'm a philosopher. I'm a teleologist to the core. I'm trying to pass this exam. There is no such thing as cheating in that system. Ricky's like, dude, that's pretty good. Like, where'd you get that from? Like, that's ethics. Morality is like, no, actually you broke a rule. So in this course, there will be a law, I guess. There will be a law that if you get caught cheating on the exam or something, that you'll get a 0 on the exam. That's a law about morality. Don't do it, even if you have an ethic that could justify. Okay, so Angela said the reason we have these on this slide this way is most people do morality first. But do you get what that means? It means they're not actually even doing morality. Because if they don't know why or what or how they got it or the process or the ethic, how do they actually know what's right or wrong? So when Ricky leans over Brady and says, Brady, stop cheating off my exam like that. Brady's like, what? What's the definition? What does cheating mean again? Ricky's like, it's when you, I don't know, you just do stuff that ain't your stuff. Brady's like, is that wrong? And again, this like whole conversation about it, and Brady's like ignorant. He doesn't know about this. And he's like, how would I know about that? And Ricky's like, because you have an ethic. Brady's like, no, I don't have an ethic. No one ever taught me a method. How do I know, like, how do I even know what you're saying is wrong? And Ricky's like, your mom said that. Well, what if Brady's mom didn't say that? And Brady never went to church either. And Brady just listened to the radio all day in a tractor. Cheating probably sounds pretty normal, doesn't sound wrong, most likely. Listening to some pop song. You're probably a country guy. You're a country guy. Okay, he's listening to a country song, you know. I'm not up on country people, but something about cheating in your love and tears in your beer and all that sort of stuff. Hey, you never heard that song? It is a very famous country song, one of the most famous of all. There's a tear in my beer, waiting for you, dear, or something, something. It topped the charts for like an entire year or something when I was a kid. Okay, all that to say, if Brady doesn't know his ethic, then what Ricky's telling him is wrong is just Ricky telling him it's wrong. What if Ricky leans over and he's like, hey, you know what? It's wrong for you to eat all your food. Why don't you give me some? If Brady doesn't know anything, he gives the food to Ricky, right? That's morality. Like, people are doing stuff that they have no clue why. So you need to be thinking through this stuff, like, not just definitions, but maybe do you do that? Because lots of you do. And it's not entirely a bad thing. I'm going to assume that Brady is not motivated by evil in his heart. Because I like Brady, I think he's a good guy and all that stuff. Seems like he's a good guy, doesn't he? Doesn't Brady seem like a good guy? Like that. Brady's like the definition of good guy around here. What if Brady doesn't know his ethic though? And you're like, Brady, you're such a good guy. Could you teach me to be a good guy? He's like, I don't know why I do this stuff. I just am, you know what? Socially perceptive. I noticed that all the other people that say happy don't steal somebody's food, so I don't. But I don't know if it's right or wrong. I do notice that people get A's cheat, so I do it too. You're like, wait a minute, like, that can't be true. What are you saying? He's like, well, one person I knew got an A. I know they cheated last year. Must be a good thing, so I do that. Many of you are socially perceptive for your morality. It's not actually real morality. You're not doing it because it's right or wrong. You're doing it because your friend did it, or you saw some result possibly that you thought was good. That would make you a teleologist. You saw a result that you thought was good. Most of you do this to like avoid pain. Most of you are stoic, possibly Epicurean. If you didn't get to those philosophers yet, who haven't written a paper yet, Stoics or one, Stoics and Epicureans. Many of you are Stoic, like, hey, I just want to avoid pain. My mom used to spank me when I stole a cookie, so I didn't steal it. Except when I knew she couldn't ever find out, and then I would steal a cookie because I'm not going to get pain out of it. I get pleasure perceived. And many of you do the same thing for like an exam. Like, if I knew that Thurber ain't paying attention, you know I try not to pay attention when you're taking exams. I try not to see if people are cheating because I just don't like dealing with it. It's an avoidance tactic. But two, I also secretly do try to look, or do try to pay attention. So I'm up here like, usually grading something that's supposed to be graded a long time ago. I'm like, ugh. And then I wait till I get myself in a really bad mood, like, I should have graded this. Why did I? And I don't say anything, but I try to catch him later. Or I'll say something later, and I'm like, Brady, I looked at your exam, and it looks exactly like Ricky's exam. Could you explain how that happened? And people are like, don't know. Guess my pencil went that way. Okay. They don't have a morality, they're just doing it. Many of you have morality built on, then, the best you could say would be it's built on tradition. It's your group, your society, your mom. If your mom and dad gave you discipline and direction in life via that, you probably do what they said to do. And you might even disagree with it. You might think they're immoral, making you immoral, but you still do it anyway. Like, that's weird. That's not an ethic. So trying to get you guys to make sure you develop and know and understand your ethic. Otherwise, like we talked about last time, I think we talked about this guy, right? Plato, the guy, you can't live a good life if you can't live a good life. So if you can't define it and know what it is, you couldn't live it. So it's really weird to me. I'm middle-aged at this point, you know, still feel like I'm not, but technically I am. So I'm middle-aged, and technically I guess I've been middle-aged for a long time, but I don't necessarily think in those terms. It's weird to me that people that are middle-aged like me, they lots of times don't know the definition of a good life. And they're like just kind of doing stuff. And maybe they have a good life. In my perception, they have a good life. They have a house and family and a couple of cars, and they go have fun and stuff like that. It's a good life in my perception of it. But they can't define it. They can't say why it is. When I say like, hey, you're living for God and He rewards you, right? And they're like, what? I'm like you obviously bought the car because God blessed you, or because you thought it would do something for you as a Christian. I don't even know what you're talking about. I'm like, that is not a good life. You don't get to heaven and get a reward for that. So I would like to see most of you, or all of you, I would like to see all of you get more reward than you thought you were maybe even going to get, because you lived your life ethically, and then it came out as good or moral. And then God's like, hey, I know you made that choice on purpose. You followed an ethic that you thought would be what you should do according to God's plan in the world, and I can reward you for that. You know, if there's choices you make, which are you really don't make as choices ethically, that God can't reward you for. For instance, some of you maybe get to heaven and you're like, hey, I read the Bible every day. And God's like, doesn't count. You're like, well, I wasn't doing it to count, but it's got to count. Come on, man. He's like, no, it doesn't count. You didn't do it as an ethical decision. You didn't have an ethic that made a moral choice. You did it because Mom used to tell you to do it or something. And you thought that the pastor would be happy. Or maybe you were trying to attract a guy. And so at Bible college you say things like, I read my Bible every day. How about you? And he's like, that's the kind of woman I want. You just doing it for that. That would actually be a moral choice. Not such a bad moral choice, but there's going to be things you do that you don't actually get credit for, except you could if you lived ethically and you knew why and what you were doing, and you actually chose it, and you said, I chose this against other things I could have done. I did this on purpose, God, here's why. And he's like, thank you. That's showing me that you actually were doing it, not just bumbling through life. Okay. These are the three types. Again, I'm going to go over them, even though I hope at this point you could just rattle them off yourself. If you can't yet, you need to study more. So these are the three ethical systems that you need to know and understand. And if you don't get the class. Okay, deontology is rules, Most of you don't use the word deontological or deontology. You could and should if you want to be conversive with the literature, is that the word? If you want to say what people have said for a few thousand years, you'd say what they've said for a few thousand years, which is the word deontology or deontological. That's a rule. It's an external, and I have a little mixed language here. External principle that is a rule system, a rule-based system, shows what's inherently right or wrong. Remember this little scenario? Principle becomes a rule when you like define it, and a rule becomes a law when you enforce it. And there are kind of like shades of distinction there and such, but we're not making a whole lot of shades of distinction in this one. So if you say that deontology is a law-based system, yes, technically you might not be quite right. If you say it's a principle-based system, yes, but are they rules? If you say it's a rule-based system, you know, that sort of thing. What you wouldn't want to do, though, what you don't want to be able to say, don't let yourself say this, as a parent or as a teacher or something like that. You have a law that's not part of this. So it's like a separated law, and it's not built on the rule that you ever stated, and that rule is not built on a principle that anybody seems to know. That would be a law that just doesn't make sense. It's a random law to people. Honestly, a lot of laws, probably most of the laws you follow, don't actually make sense to you. Partially maybe because you haven't thought of them, but like a speed limit. Most of you, Sunday, you guys go to Aberdeen on Sunday? Okay, oh yeah, I want to say, this is totally tangent, but it's an important one in my opinion. Today is your last best day. Get outside this afternoon. It's supposed to be super sunny, super warm, like no wind, and super awesomeness. And then after that, it's not going to be. So by Sunday, it'll be down like in the single digits with snow blowing around. And you know what'll happen? You'll still drive 65 to Aberdeen. You'll drive 65 this afternoon if you go there, and you'll drive 65 on Sunday, and most of you don't drive that. So that's like the essence of like unwisdom. So on a day like today, you probably pretty safely drive faster than that, but it would be against the law. On Sunday, you probably can't. You should be making decisions about that. That's like, hey, this is a law. I don't know. You're like, the speed limit sign says 65. And you know, it's like a random law. It is a bit random, actually. You know, speed limit all the time when I was growing up throughout the country was 55. Max speeds were 55. And it was put in place right when I was like a little kid under Jimmy Carter administration, when I was like not even really paying much attention, because they needed to save oil, because we were running out of oil in the world, and the OPEC countries put us under an embargo, and we didn't have gasoline. So everybody had to drive slower to save gas. And that became law in the whole country, 55. It was that way all the way through college for me. So it's very slow when you're not used to, I mean, when it's slow, just say it that way. It's slower than you could drive, I think, at times. So 55, now it's 65, but most of you would never know why. So that's a random law to you. That's why you don't really care whether you obey it. You literally, most of you probably try to avoid cops on the road by looking ahead, and you probably maybe even have little radar detectors or something, or don't nowadays you hook up to your phone and it's got, what's it called, Waze or something? There's a website, it's more about cities. There's a website where everybody's like on real time typing in where the speed traps are. And you're like, and you like, they're like, there's a speed trap on, 6th Street, don't do it. And you can do it in real time and you can watch it, all that stuff. That's because the law is random to you. It's not built on a principle. If the principle, what if the sign said, instead of speed limit 65, the way everything it said, drive safely or die? That puts it all under the principle, be safe. And we don't have a rule for it, we just know when you're not, something like that. That's like the definition most of you use for something like pornography. You're like, there's a principle, you ain't supposed to like take advantage of people like that. I don't know whether it is or isn't, but when I see it, I can tell. Like, how do you define the rule or enforce the law? It's like, I just think there's a principle, and I think I can tell when the principle's there. That's a better version of deontology. You're trying to build it off of principles, not just random laws. And if you're a parent, don't give random laws to your kids because they can't figure out what they're doing about it. It doesn't teach them to be moral. It teaches them to just kind of like dodge their way through the dictators of life. Make sure that you have a principle. You try to explain it to them. Doesn't mean you explain it when they're 2 years old. 2 years old don't think abstractly. You don't really understand principles for that much. Like, you pretty much enforce it and then tell them there was a rule and then teach them the principles as they get older. Okay, teleology, a result-based system. External consequences show us pragmatically right or wrong. These are consequences outside of you. It's not built on feelings. It would be Brady, let's use Brady. Do you mind being the person? Doesn't matter what he says yet. He's like, I do mind. I'm like, too bad. Okay. I'm getting, what is that called? Better to ask, you guys do this, better to ask forgiveness than permission. Is that what you guys all do? So, Brady, would you please forgive me for using you as the example all day today? What if Brady was like, Ricky was always like, why are you cheating on me? Brady's like, it makes me feel good inside. I get like dopamine hits off of it. Better than drugs. And they're like, it's weird. Ricky probably be like, you're weird. And just go on. You like wouldn't even know what to say. Brady most likely has a teleological, I'm trying to get a consequence outside of myself. It's called a grade. A passing grade. Hopefully a good one. So if you see Brady starting to like move around on exam day, he sits next to, like, I don't know, don't say who all the smart people are in the class, but Brady moves around, he's like, I'm going to find the smartest one here, and he sits next to them. Students do that. There's no students, college students do that on exam day. So like, I have to look around and be like, that is the strangest thing. I thought you guys were enemies. But right now you're sitting next to each other. That is a weird thing. And it's usually a one-way thing. Like, what is the smart person getting off of it? They're getting like connection to the cool people. Brady's one of the cool kids, right? So they get connection to his clique by letting him cheat. And it's kind of a weird social thing that goes on. It's strange. It's not strange. It's typical, actually, but that would be an external consequence. Get a grade. So Brady's really sharp, which he is. So he wouldn't really need to do this, but Brady would be like, I don't want to get caught doing this. I don't want to look like really extreme here. He picks a B level person instead of an A level person. Because then nobody suspects anything. And Brady can't know anything, but he gets a C out of it by sitting next to the B level person, and I don't suspect anybody for anything. And they both have their like social connection, and they get the consequence they want. And they probably are also getting internal desires, such as dopamine hits, actually. So you get internal like feedback loops and stuff that reinforce that stuff. Okay, internal desires. If somebody has virtue theory, like they truly, they really are, or they try to be that way, they might say in like this class, they cheated on the exam, got away with it, whatever, and they're happy. And then in the next class they go to, they turn you in for cheating on the exam. You're like, dude, you meet up in the bathroom. You guys still meet in the bathroom? Do guys still meet in the bathroom to solve issues? Like, my whole growing up and all that, because there's like no law in a bathroom, right? Like, nobody could go in there, teachers can't be in there, there's no cameras, there's no nothing. Like, that's where you can beat people up or, throw people against the wall or get thrown against the wall. I'm not very big. I got thrown against the wall more than they did. It's like, somebody's like, hey, why did you turn me in for cheating on that exam? And you're like, because, I don't know, like, you gotta dodge it in the bathroom. You guys never had those? You guys were like such horses. Back in the old days, everybody went, you did? Okay. Abe's like, oh, he's joking. Abe's like, okay. Like, that's where everything got solved back in the old days. Like, I'll meet you in the bathroom after 5th period. Okay. Here's the weirdest thing. I was like, why do we always go? I'll meet you in the bathroom after 5th period. How comes they both go there after 5th period? Even the victim shows up, right? It's a solved problem. Okay. I'll tell you a little story just because. I made a moral choice, but I didn't know that I made the right moral choice. In 5th or 6th grade, I forget, because we had like up just 6th grade, but somehow there were like, no, it had to be 7th grade, excuse me. 7th grade, because we went to high school. The 7th through 12th was all in the same building, the same people and stuff. And I don't remember the guy's name, but I do remember, I mean, this is like confirmed part of my life. I was smart, you know, 7th grade and all that stuff. So I actually was in like, probably like algebra class, you know, like jump a couple of years ahead type thing. And I remember there was this, you know, I mean, it's like stereotypical, like the big, giant, oversized bully who like had a mustache in 4th grade and like, he's dumber than a rock, you know, that kind of thing. He comes in the bathroom, he's like, hey, dude. I'm like, whoa, what? You know, like, just, you know, you try to pee, you're right in the urinal, and you're like, okay. And he's like, watch out for a second. He crawls up on the top of the urinal. I'm like, what the heck? Hey, you're not gonna kill me. He reaches up these ceiling tiles, goes up in the ceiling, piles out the ceiling tile, pulls out this bag of leaves, and he's like, hey man, this is like welcome you to high school. You know, you want some of this stuff? And I was like, wow, let me see it. I was like, is it good stuff? And this is how completely like naive I am or everything. I'm like, no, I don't need that. I'm like, I got better stuff than that. He's like, what? Are you serious? I'm like, yeah, I mean, yours looks kind of like dry and stuff, and it doesn't entirely look fresh and everything. And he's like, you really come up? I'm like, yeah, we grow it. Like, I grow it. I live on a farm, I grow this stuff. He's like, no way. You give me something like, nah, you know, I don't really think my dad would want to give it away or anything and stuff, you know. I thought it was alfalfa leaves. Sample of hay, that's what we do on a farm. You pull samples, you send them away to get tested, you put them in little baggies. He had, I'm pretty sure it was marijuana. I quite don't know exactly to this day, but I'm like, yeah, we grow it all over our farm. You are stinking awesome. Welcome to high school. This is going to be great. And it never bothered me again. Like, entire high school time. I made a moral choice based on, I literally thought, like, I'm judging it based on whether it's good silage, if you know what silage is for cows. I don't know what happened there. But he was a drug user, sure. Okay, back to this. Law and morality. How do you know you have a good society? How can you make a good society? Can you make a good society? So, can Christians make a society that has Christianity in its morals? Can any, I think we got this far. Did we get this far last time already? Can any, no, okay, so this is new. Can any morality be legislated? Sort of and sort of not. I can't, let's say I was in charge, I can't make you believe the right thing. Your little heart of hearts, you can do what you want. You guys probably went to a movie a few years back called, is it called Unbroken? Is that the name of the movie? Unbroken, and the guy in World War II, is it? Mm-hmm. That gets taken as a prisoner of war or whatever, and they, like, you know, keep him in confinement and all this stuff, and they beat on him all the time, trying to get him to, like, give in, and, like, he doesn't. And did he survive the whole war that way? Did he, like, literally never gave in? Did he end up a Christian too, or?
Yes.
Is that a true thing a little bit later in life, and I don't know, all this sort of stuff. They couldn't beat it into him, or beat it out of him, or however you say it, like, you can't really do that. You know, well, in my opinion, that's my opinion, if I were in the same situation, I'd be like, all right, I think I'm smarter than you. I think I'll just fake it, and I'll pretend, and then I'll screw you over later. After you, like, believed me that I believed whatever your thing you were trying to beat into me was, I'll make sure I stab you in the back when you're not looking. Like, I'm not gonna stand here and let you beat on me. It's probably how I would handle it, but I still didn't believe their stuff. And they probably didn't believe my stuff either. In our attitudes, you've probably done this before with your parents. Most people have parents in this world. You have parents. Did you get that? That's the other thing. Most people have parents. Everybody has parents, except this week they announced that in some lab somewhere in the world, I don't remember where, they made synthetic mice, embryos that are growing, and they did not use an egg or a sperm. It's the first time ever in history they got something to actually grow for real that didn't use an egg or a sperm. So I think they took DNA somehow. You know how they clone Dolly the sheep sort of thing, but that's actually like using a pre-existent fertilized egg, taking stuff out, putting the other stuff in. Somehow they did it with, like, we don't need an egg cell anymore, and we can just, like, scrape some skin off of you and make you, at least for mice. So, interesting, those mice don't have parents. You ask that mice, like, who's your mom? Or who's your daddy? Is that a thing you're supposed to say? Like, who's your daddy? He's like, me. You're like, what? You're like, I'm my own daddy. They took my skin cells and they made me again. So that would be strange for me to think that that might be happening. If you can do it with a mouse, why can't you do it with a human? And that's where it's headed, okay? All that to say, you can't legislate someone's attitudes. Oh yeah, I was going to make a thing. You probably told your parents before, they were like, do you agree to be home by 9 o'clock? You're like, yes, sir, like, it's awesome, I'll be here. You show up and you're literally like, jerks, why are they saying that? And like, go up the stairs and slam the door. Okay, that's no intents or attitudes. But behaviors, your dad, if you had a dad who was, I hope not abusive and stuff, but a solid dad, he's like, if you're not home by 9 o'clock, and you're like, if you test it, he's like, guess what? You just lost your allowance for the whole month. And you're like, oh, shoot. Or he's like, guess my dad never did that. He paid me, like he paid us to work on farm. He'd be like, guess what? See you at 3 a.m. tomorrow as we have to get up early to go to work. Like, and he'd be knocking on my bedroom door. Get up, get out of bed. Like, we never go to work at 3 a.m. He's like, today we do. After I get in at like midnight. Those are rough. Okay, moral behaviors. You can enforce moral behaviors. Just get a big enough cop and he'll make your moral behavior like do what he wants it to be. Okay, could Christian morality be legislated? You could. Here's some ways you could do it, or do it. Some ways you could try to do it. That's what I have here. You can't do it from a Christian who says Christian morality. You couldn't, I think, from the perspective of the Bible, you couldn't make it happen by being the biggest cop, meaning being the biggest dictator. Because you're like, listen, you are going to do this, or I will beat you. And then if you don't do it, I'll beat you more. And I'll keep, like eventually like beat the person to the pulp. But that's not probably Christian. So that wouldn't be actually a way to do it. You would have to do things that are persuasive. Because Christianity is literally built on this concept, well, some of it, a lot of it, is built on this concept of you free will. You make a choice towards God, or you can make a choice not towards God. So we as Christians operate with the respect for someone's free will. Like, I could beat you into this, but that actually wouldn't be Christian. I have to persuade you or convince you or draw you or whatever sort of word you want. There's easy things to do, like why don't you be the politician that writes the laws, and that'll be good for you. You can write Christian stuff for us. If not, maybe you can go to church a lot. That has an effect on people all around you, like all around the city, all around the classroom, whatever. Like being a good Christian and talking well. But some kid in the background is like, I'm gonna cheat on this exam right before the teacher walks in, like, let's all cheat on the exam. You might be the one who was like, let's not all cheat on the exam. Because that's not good. You might have been the nerd or the, whatever sort of terms they use for people that they think are like that, but at least you probably were salt and light. What if they say, like, meet me in the bathroom, and they kill you? It's the bathroom. That'd be an interesting way to die, but be an interesting storyline, actually. Okay, Madeline, come on, like, it would be an interesting storyline, like, 5th grade, you died for the sake of God in the bathroom, beat up by bullies, and they all are convicted to their heart as they're called off to jail. And they all become Christians and become like Billy Grahams or something, just because you were willing to beat them. Okay, you guys don't think in those terms? I do all the time. Okay, anyways. Persuasion, you might have to die. Some of you in this room, maybe me too, I don't really want to die, so I'll let you guys do that. You guys might be martyrs. It will have an effect. It will be very persuasive. The Bible promises that. The blood of martyrs cries out from the ground and convicts a society or a culture for generations, actually. It's the way you might have to persuade some people, potentially. It's not what I like my life. I have a good life. Actually, I enjoy it, so I don't really want to die. But if that's how it went down, I guess that's how it went down. I hope that I'm a good martyr, and it is actually persuasive and convincing to people. There's people, joking around about it, right? There's people probably this morning that are potentially dying from their faith. Probably not here too much, but in some other countries and usually some far place in the world, can have an effect. Okay, should Christian morality be legislated? You could ask this question. See how these keep going, and the italics are emphasizing. Should you do it? Should you actually try to get people to follow Christian laws, so-called? Yes, in a pluralistic society, if for our setting, we're a pluralistic society? I think the answer should be yes, actually in a dictatorial society too, or something, but it would be a little different explanation. So the answer would be yes. And in a pluralistic society like we live in, everybody is doing that. Every song you listen to on the radio, do you listen to radio when you're in the tractor?
Yeah.
It's got it on AM talk radio. Well, did you used to listen to Rush Limbaugh before he died? You ever listen to Rush Limbaugh on the tractor? No, that's that. Anybody else ever listen to Rush Limbaugh? Wow. Okay. Do you know who he is? The most famous political speaker who had the most famous, he's literally why AM radio still exists in the United States. Because literally government tried to shut it down and it was like, no, you can't. Because that's where all the politics happens. Rush Limbaugh has changed the history that you're living. He only died like 3 years ago or something like that. He influenced so many people. I guarantee you, he influenced your parents. They either liked him or hated him, one or two. And did your parents ever say ditto to you? Like ditto head or anything like that? Yeah, but it's like, yeah. They got that from Rush Limbaugh. It was like a sign-off thing, like, hey, ditto heads, because we're all going to do this again tomorrow. You know, ditto, let's do it again. And I'm sure every one of your families has been influenced by that guy. You didn't even know it. More influence than Billy Graham's had on your family. Pretty much guarantee that. Okay, all that to say, every song you listen to on the radio is propagating its worldview. You're supposed to have a tear in your beer. Have you guys heard this song? This literally was also a definitive song of like new version of country music as it emerged in like the 1980s and 90s. Whatever the guy's, I don't remember the guy is saying. There's a tear in my beer because I'm crying for you, dear, something, something, something. And it was like the new genre of country music. That song has influenced people. It's a worldview, right? If she breaks up with you and cheats on you, you should go cry, and you should cry your stuff out in your beer. That's a worldview. Taylor Swift, Swifties here. She's got worldview in every song. She's got how to handle life in every song. That's a pluralistic society. If you are not in it, and you're not doing that, you're not propagating your beliefs and influencing, then you're not doing what all the rest of the people are doing, including all the secularists or whatever you might want to call them. They're not actually secularists. They're literally either on God's side or not God's side, ultimately. Okay, tolerance. We have this here, definition of pluralism. Tolerance, what it really means, and then tolerance today, like scare quotes, what people have made it mean, which it never really meant that. Tolerance is worldviews are tolerated so you can find out whether you hold to it. You're like, hey, Angela, could you persuade me? And she either can or can't. And I'm like, I'm happy to listen, like talk. And she's like, you should buy the latest Beller twine that I'm advertising on my show or whatever. You know that Angela is a voice? You guys know that? Are you still doing it or no? When you're
On
home?
breaks sometimes.
She is an AM radio. Are you an AM radio fan?
Yeah.
I mean, that's your job, right?
Yeah.
She's an AM radio DJ announcer who holds her own show on public radio, but a radio that's over the air. It's like publicly broadcast. You guys didn't know that? She's like highly influential voice in her. Is it Elby? Or what's the name of your town?
Chasm Radio.
Okay. Well, wherever that place is and how far it broadcasts, like 20 miles. How far do you guys? How far is
Actually,
your-
I mean, I got it like past Elbow Lake.
Okay.
Yeah,
So like 100-mile radius.
I mean, the AM count pretty far.
You know, radius of 100 miles.
Okay, maybe not 100-mile radius.
Pretty close on a nice night when the sky is just right or something. Okay. And sometimes you can listen to it on internet too, because I've done that before. On a break, because your show was Thursday night or something. I forget when your show was, but I did listen to it at least a couple times. Didn't I? Did you remember me listening to it on the radio? I listened to it on my computer. I listened to her show, and she has to advertise things like stuff like Baylor Twine or something, or the local farm store. She is actually tolerantly putting her voice out there, promoting something. What if it was today, she has to, and she might, I don't know, you might have to do this. What if something comes on like you have to advertise the local abortion clinic? Like, the local clinic is giving free abortions to all ladies under 30 years old for Christmas weekend. And she has to put on a radio DJ voice like, And this is animal, what do you call yourself on there? I forget, you have a sign, don't you?
Yeah.
You have a call sign, what is it? Or
You
you don't
know
wanna-
Ange? Or
Oh,
Angela?
Yeah, your friend Ange or something like that. Your friend Ange is down here to tell you you can get a free abortion this weekend. Planned Parenthood has moved in their mobile clinic. Don't worry, no one will be able to spot you. She doesn't do it, right? That's tolerance today. Like, she's supposed to just do that. Would you do that? Or would you quit?
Yeah, probably not. I mean, luckily Casim's like
Right?
the exact opposite,
Yeah, she's
literally.
She's like, the local churches will force you to keep your children. If you don't want them, they'll adopt them for Christmas. This is your friend Ange. Whatever you're saying. Mostly she plays Christmas music, like rocking around the Christmas tree or something. That's what I was listening to. But anyway, should church and state, I didn't listen to it this, were you home this Christmas doing it?
Yeah, I got a little few
Okay, I
hours.
didn't listen to this break. This is last week's break. Okay. I didn't know you were gonna be in class, or I would have. Okay, should church and state be separated? Because that's how she was so good in the play last year. You know, she was the announcer for the play, that Saturday little play. Like, she is a real deal, actually. All right, separation of church and state, what it should be, what it is called today. State should provide, state means like a nation or a political, it's called the body politic, but a political entity, I guess, would be the, could be a state, it could be a city, it could be a nation. Should provide freedom for and promote religious influence without favor for one religion. That's what it was originally written as. For pluralistic societies, you want everybody's worldview to be up for grabs and persuasive. And so you make opportunities for that. If somebody has a lawsuit or something today, you know, that'll still happen, but mostly today it means that the government should be against all religions. It seems how it's interpreted currently, which is the opposite of a pluralistic society, which is we won't have any extra worldviews talking, and then we'll be a secular state. And you hear this stuff that's even being talked about right now, because President Trump signed some executive orders about abortion, and he's restricted it, a whole bunch of restrictions on it ultimately this past week. And immediately people are like, he should just stay out of it. It's a religious view. And that's not, it's probably not even his religion really, but like, it's a religious thing. Why is he doing that? That's the idea that we're not gonna talk about it, we're just gonna avoid it. That's not actually separation, that's like shutdown, you might say. That will turn every body politic into a secular group. What if a bunch of Muslims, for instance, were to move to Allendale? Wouldn't take much to make influence. This is a small town, right? So let's say 100 of them just pack up and move in, and they're here. They're like, we're going to build a mosque. And we're like, what do you say to them? I'm like, no, you're not. That is what Allendale would say. Allendale would say that because Allendale's a small town, but they couldn't. Technically, be like, no, you're not supposed to be restricting religion. They would sue under First Amendment rights, and they'd get a mosque built. And then we would have a mosque here in town. If I were doing that, which I'm kind of surprised that more of them don't do, but I would buy the house that's for sale right across from Kessler. It's an older house that's up right over there. It's been for sale for years. It's not entirely livable, I don't think, but I would make that my mosque or whatever, just to like be right there next door to Kessler Hall. Just to say I was. Okay, if you're going to do all that, which immoral behaviors should be legislated as illegal? If you're going to tell someone, like, guess what? We have so much influence around here, we're going to make it illegal for you to, most of you probably, I'm just guessing the crowd, right? I'm guessing most of you are okay with making abortion illegal. So you're like, now what? So the young 18-year-old who got with a guy at a party that she shouldn't have been at and shouldn't have been with, and she's pregnant. She never wanted a kid. Maybe she got raped already, or like not raped, but like, you know, like it wasn't even connected. And she's pregnant. You're like, actually, it's illegal for you to have an abortion. She has the abortion. What do you do with her then? You remember we have a principle. The principle would be something like, you're not supposed to kill a baby. Like, why don't you love babies? The rule would be like, we made it a rule. You don't get an abortion. She gets an abortion. She goes to Minnesota, gets an abortion, comes back. And what do you do about it? If you're gonna enforce the law, do you throw her in jail? You said it was gonna be a rule and you're gonna make it a law and it's illegal. Should you throw her in jail as a killer? Or what? Like everybody like, you're all sitting there like, I don't wanna talk about this is what, yeah, because you don't know what to do about it. A theonomist, you know what a theonomist would do? They'd like flip through the Old Testament. The Old Testament says you just did 2 crimes worthy of death. One was you were sleeping around and stuff and you weren't supposed to be doing that, so that's worthy of death. And you just killed a baby, that's worthy of death. Death penalty for you, 18 years old or not. That's a theonomist view. Laws of the Bible should be enforced. A revivalist view says, hey, we should look at natural, general revelation. Did you just know that you're not supposed to do that? Probably you could argue in on general revelation also. So a revivalist would be like, you knew better. Like, mammals know better. So now what do we do? A pluralist would say not that. A pluralist, some of you might actually decide to be pluralists, which is, I don't really want to death penalty the 18-year-olds who are having abortions. I just don't really feel like doing it. And I don't feel like putting them in jail either, because what am I gonna do with them? I'm just gonna step back and say, hey, it was your decision. I don't know what to tell you. But don't come after my kid, and don't make more kids or something, but like, hands off, you know, like, as long as you don't cause any more trouble of anything, just like, hands off. Otherwise, you have to do something about the rule. You have to enforce it. Most people don't like enforcing those sort of things. Okay, the last one, Davis is a guy we'll look at here a little bit. He will show up later in the course. John Jefferson Davis is his name. He has a book. His view, like, you probably shouldn't be messing around with things like, because if you did Old Testament law, a thief gets his hand chopped off potentially. What if Trevin, you want to be the bad guy now? Trevin goes down to the C-store, gets a little candy bar, slips it in his like winter coat, and walks, you know, like pays for his soda but not his candy bar. And they come out and they're like, stop now, empty your pockets. Candy bar, he throws it down, they fingerprint it. And they're like, hey, you know what? You're supposed to get your hand chopped off now. And everybody's like, oh. Davis is a Christian and such. He's like, that's probably not where your focus should be. Because that is not the worst thing that can happen is stealing a candy bar. Like, nobody died stealing the candy bar. On the other hand, if Trevor walked into the same C-store and he's like, standing by the candy bar aisle, and he's like, I made a decision. Next person that takes a candy bar off the shelf, I'm going to kill him. They grab a candy bar, and he's like, yeah, thanks. That's relatively important because it involves life. Davis says this, if you can know this through general revelation, you could legislate it, but you should be focused on life. Promoting life, protecting life and promoting it. So Trevin probably should go straight to some jail thing because he killed a life versus stealing a candy bar. He'd argue, I was trying to promote my life and stay alive. So would you treat that the same way? Okay, you can look through that a little more and we will move on from there to the next lecture next time.